writing on the wall will be correct. So my TikTok audience is you're seeing me here with everything backwards, and if you're on YouTube, you'll see everything face forward. So in regards to President Biden's son, and also too, let's just be clear. It looks like Biden is also tangled up with with the shit that's on the laptop, and it's appearing as if they have indeed confirmed that those emails were valid. So the question is, what are the chances that there will be any thorough investigation? I mean, keep in mind right now you have a Democratic Senate and a Democratic Congress. So do you think that there's any chance in hell that this will be viewed, or better yet, investigated thoroughly and investigated fairly? And if so, I mean, what do you think could possibly come out of this? Keep in mind, right now, the country at question is the Ukraine, and they're involved in a brutal war. So, I mean, what do we expect to come out of this? Now, some folks are saying that the Biden administration is jumping to help the Ukrainians because he knows that there's dirt on there. And then there's others who are saying that Putin could potentially be our savior because he would actually bring forth to light all kinds of. He would bring forth to light a lot of the corruption on the Biden administration. I'd like to know how you guys feel about that. Let me see here. Definitely need Trump back. Why don't we worry about our own border? Well, right now, because of the war that's going on in Ukraine, the border is taking a back seat. And that came from user 947. You know, the thing about it is, in regards to the border, this is what I said in a video I made, and whereas I suggested that this Ukrainian war could be helping Biden to some degree, because it doesn't matter if you turn on right-wing news or you turn on left-wing news, liberal media, whatever. Everybody is talking about the war. Nobody's talking about inflation, the economy, gas prices, or any of that. And those are all flaws for the Biden administration. So right now, this is benefiting him. You guys are already dropping. That is a very handsome shirt. I appreciate that. You know, I'm a Chicago native and certainly like my Bears, and we go through our moments of sadness. It's been 14 months for the southern border. 1973 Patriot. I do appreciate that comment. Yeah, you're right. I'm not here to make to deliver any illusion that the Biden administration has been horrible on the border. And then you had Kamala Harris go down there, and it just looked goofy. It just looked goofy. But at the same time, like I said, as long as this conflict is going on in Eastern Europe, it does create somewhat of a distraction. Now, you guys are already dropping a lot of questions. Let me just make this clear. Any of you who go to YouTube and go to the Handsome Liberal, same name, and you drop it there, if you're not getting responded to here, I will see them there, because there's far less people on there as I move the audience over to YouTube. But okay, hi. It says hi from Cletorus. Good evening, sir. Definitely. Skull Vikings, not in 2022 or 2021. They didn't do it. They didn't do that well this year. No one's talking about all the fentanyl coming over, killing more people than cancer or COVID. Curling 17. No, they're not. No, they're not. The problem with stuff coming across the Mexican border is that it's as old as the day is long. Right now, it's fentanyl. Who knows what it'll be next? But we've had a problem with narcotics coming across the U.S. border for most of our lifetime. The problem is the demand in the United States is so great for this stuff that we can blame what's coming in over the border, but they would not be shipping it if there weren't folks like, folks in America buying this stuff. So that's another problem in itself. If there is biolabs, did Trump know? Man, this is one where I have to say, even with, you see my name, the Handsome Liberal, even as a liberal, I'm starting to admit more and more the things that Trump said that particularly us left-wingers dismissed as being ridiculous. The more we look into it, the more things he's saying that are starting to come to fruition, or at the very least, starting to look like they have validity to them. Because this whole Hunter Biden laptop thing was something that us liberals just dismissed. And it wasn't just that we dismissed it. We dismissed it at the behest of social media, a lot of left-wing politicians. It was dismissed. and now it's looking like, jeez. I mean, this actually might have not a shred of truth in it, but a lot of truth. So we'll see. But man, you think only Mexico? You better track it. No, no. Looks like that says brain dicks. No, I'm not saying only Mexico. I mean the southern border. Mexico is a country south of the United States that border us. But I understand Panama and and Peru and all of those countries down there that are known for the cocaine traffic and stuff like that. I'm just simply saying that Mexico for years has been allowing its country to be used as a thoroughfare for all types of things that the United States do not want. Everything from human trafficking to illegal immigrants to drugs. They're using Mexico as a thoroughfare. It doesn't always originate in Mexico. Like, for instance, the caravans that were coming up from Guatemala and Honduras and all of that. They were on foot. They didn't fly into the United States. They walked and drove and hitched rides through Mexico. You're going to tell me the Mexican government didn't know that? Mexico is a long ways from the southern border of Mexico up to the northern border up here in the United States. So, and once again, another thing where I would give Trump credit for is he was starting to heavily criticize and threaten Mexico for allowing, like, you do something about your borders. I mean, they're using your country. So I can't, like I said, you see what my name is. You see what my name is. I'm trying to not go nuts here. I'm trying to keep the wording proper because TikTok has a tendency when you get too far on the right. I don't know. Like I said, I'm coming off a week ban. So, but yeah, I mean, he's some of the things that he has said during the course of his time in politics. Some of the stuff you have no choice but to check off boxes as accurate or it has some validity to it. What truth to Biden's son? I watched the news and I've never heard any real evidence of activations. The truth is coming. Looks like this says Benji Kirby. The truth is coming out as of this week, where you have social media, not social media, but tech companies have validated that those emails were genuine. The ones that they were denying and downplaying. It also appears as though some of the social media companies deliberately either tried to cover it up or wasn't necessarily forthcoming on it. Now, keep in mind, it is a developing story. This is something that is just taking place within the last few days. But it's certainly, considering how long it's been, shows that there's more to this. It hasn't died. And right now, with President Biden in office, this is a time for that story to go to a graveyard. It's not dying. It's becoming more and more valid as time goes on. So give it time. This is certainly not a story where I would just shoot down or dismiss at this point. It's looking like it's looking like it definitely has some validity to it. But like I said, give it time. Okay, let me see here. It's backwards. Yeah, 111 CHC. I don't know why, but I've been trying to figure out how to invert the video on TikTok. I'm on YouTube right now, simulcast. If you go to YouTube and put in the Handsome Liberal, I'm also broadcasting on YouTube right now. It's a simulcast, and it is in the correct position on YouTube. I don't understand why. I can't figure out how to fix that on TikTok. I've been trying to do that. The guy from the repair shop, he dropped it off in his hiding. That came from Carolyn 17. That has got to be the dumbest, I'll say effing, to not set off TikTok. That has got to be the dumbest effing thing you could possibly do. You got incriminating information, or what looks like it's going to potentially be incriminating information on your laptop. Why the hell would you drop that off why would you put that in anybody's hands? You smash that. I mean, seriously, you just smash that. You don't put that information in the cloud. It stays on some type of physical hard drive, like a USB stick or a secure digital card or something. You keep that in your hand. You don't give that a chance to get out. It kind of reminds me of some of these guys who have, pictures of children on their laptops and things like that. Then they take it into Best Buy or something like that, and before you know it, they're coming to Best Buy to pick their laptop up and they're getting arrested. Like, why the hell would you take that there? I mean, in addition to saying, why would you have pictures like that on your laptop to begin with? But if you're going to be engaging in criminal activities, you got to be smarter than that. That's just ridiculous. I'm trying to see. I don't know if anybody's responding on it, because you guys are definitely live as hell on TikTok. I'm looking on YouTube. I don't, for some reason, the comments are not popping up there. But if they are, the untouchable in Delaware, House Yuva. Well, I don't get what you mean by that. You're saying because um, Biden is a senator from Delaware, he's untouchable? Could be. I don't know. Could be. I think because he's a president, he's certainly going to be untouchable now. Because he was on heavy drugs, Mike Hertz, good answer. Yeah, obviously Hunter Biden and his crack antics, crack cocaine antics are fairly well known at this point. So I guess that's a really good point. I cannot argue with that. Appreciate you guys that are in here that are following the page. Looks like Chili Willie 315 and Task Money. I'll let your boy. Let me see here. Just looking at your comments real quick here. They don't want to talk about the flushed eaten documents, so they talk laptop. Okay, KB, that's me zero. Okay, when you say flushed eaten documents, care to elaborate on that? I'm just curious. What are you talking about in regards to that flushed or eaten documents? I don't quite get that one. And I'm trying to find out, by the way, my YouTube page. I don't get the hell what's going on. But like I said, I would invite all of you who certainly enjoy speaking politics, hearing it from a different perspective, so to speak, and being able to communicate. Because like I said, a lot of us, the minute we find out somebody is on a different side of the aisle, we don't have shit to say to them. And I'm trying to illustrate the point that progress is made when you are willing to at least engage in a healthy dialogue with the other side. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to agree with me. I understand that. Same time, I don't agree with a lot of you guys, but it's, to some degree, the more I'm talking to you guys, the more I'm starting to say, look, there may be more to this than originally we thought. We were just dismissing this. Real quick, folks, Helps the Analytics brings more MAGA to the page. I'm going to ask that you guys go ahead and click the likes. It don't cost you a penny. Helps out the page, brings more. This is what we do every night at 7 o'clock. Trying to get more MAGA to the audience, trying to get more MAGA to the crowd as usual. That's what I prefer speaking with. Conservatives, Republicans, but definitely MAGA. So hit them likes, get them likes up. Doesn't cost you a cent. On to the next question. Okay, I read an article today where Barr was interviewed. The laptop is not Russian disinformation. You know, it's going to be backwards on TikTok, but I actually purchased Barr's book, one damn thing after another. I'm going to assume that a lot of that's not in there because it looks like with the laptop, because I'm watching the 5 on Fox News this afternoon, and they admitted that even they were hesitant to really get serious with that story because so many folks were saying that there was no validity to it. So I'm assuming it's not going to be in Barr's book. But I kind of like Barr. I mean, listen, he's definitely not on the liberal side of the fence, but I always appreciate somebody that's willing to stand up for their convictions. And he clearly took a hell of a lot of flack for standing up to Trump when it came to the 2020 election. Now, I understand this audience in particular, there's probably a whole lot of you guys who don't like the guy. I can't speak on that, but I'm just simply saying when somebody has some backbone that is unlike a Lindsey Graham or a Ted Cruz where they just follow the narrative. I gotta appreciate that. And that came from, looks like House number 1. You puppet. This is coming from, what does it say? BDMSTER, Bandmaster or something like that. Your puppet strings are showing. Okay, who's controlling me? Who the hell's controlling me? I gotta ask that. If my puppet strings are showing, who the hell's controlling me? I mean, seriously, I want to know that. With a name like that, and the fact that I'm willing to admit these folks sometimes have some valid points, you tell me who the hell's controlling me. Is it a good book? Been thinking of getting it. It is certainly a revealing book, but he covers a lot more than just the Trump administration. Attorney General Barr goes well back into the Reagan administration, and I've only read the first few chapters. I haven't read it all. I just got it a couple of days ago or a few days ago, and he starts from the very beginning. So obviously, most people who would purchase this in this day and age is purchasing it because they want to know what the hell went down with the Trump administration. But the whole book is not devoted to that. Unlike Chris Christie's book, which I really thoroughly enjoyed, this book was almost strictly in regards to things that took place during the Trump administration. So I would also say this Bill Barr's book is a pretty thick ass book. This is like 500 plus pages. So he really He really put some tender love and care into that. Crazy thing is, if on TikTok you can't even see my book, whereas on YouTube you can see it. Just looking here, they were paid to lie. Elaborate on that. How you said they were paid to lie. Looks like Katie, KB, that's me said, is that the best you've got? Seriously. You're talking to BD Master in regards to what? Bill Barr is corrupt as ever. Let's chat. Okay, you gotta elaborate. Okay, how or in what way is Bill Barr corrupt? And I would also ask this: if Bill Barr is corrupt, if what you're suggesting is true, that Bill Barr is corrupt, how the hell did he serve through so many Republican administrations and not come out? It's not like this guy. He's not Scaramucci, where he served a few months and Trump got rid of him. He served under the Reagan, under the Bush HW. I mean, he served under a lot of Republican administrations. So if he's corrupt and they kept hiring him over and over again, wouldn't that also mean that potentially they are corrupt too? I'm just going with what you're saying. Are you discussing the 26 illegal blow weapon lambs that we are operating in Ukraine? Okay, you're saying bioweapon labs. I don't believe there's any bioweapon labs being operated in Ukraine right now. I'm not going to argue whether there were or were not, but I certainly don't believe that's happening right now with Zelensky hiding out in green all over the place. But if let's go with that. Let's say there are bioweapon labs in Ukraine. Does that justify what the hell's going on right now? I mean, seriously, you down with blowing up shopping malls and children hiding in bunkers because they got bio? I mean, are you really justifying that? If the Ukraine was involved in some significant corruption with President Biden, I've seen videos on YouTube, old videos, by the way. Now that you guys have brought my attention to this, I went doing research, and it does appear that people far more than just Trump was complaining about corruption in Ukraine. Everything from white supremacy on out, which is why I'm saying some of the things that Trump complained about are coming to fruition. However, the response by Putin is so far over the top that even if the complaints on the Ukraine are accurate, it doesn't justify the stuff that Vladimir Putin is doing. It just, I mean, he's one, because you got to keep in mind, just like in the United States, there's corruption. You hear Trump talking about the election was fixed according to Trump. Well, that doesn't mean that another country should come over here and blow your house up because of it, does it? So the corruption that the elites, whether left wing or right wing in any country, are involved in is usually outside of the scope of any of the citizens. Putin is killing citizens. He's killing the vast majority of the people that are being harmed in Ukraine are average Ukrainian citizens, women and children fleeing, people being blown up in buses as they're trying to evacuate. Throwing up the fact that the Ukraine is corrupt or they work with Hunter Biden does not excuse that. And that's all I'm saying. Look, you guys are definitely on point with these comments. Watch the Putin files. He's corrupt. He is as corrupt as Trump, stealing from the people. I can't disagree with that. I don't. Like I said, I'm not here to defend the Ukrainian government or not. But I've said this before, that Vladimir Putin is the last person that should be acting on somebody else being corrupt. I mean, what is the first thing that happened when this kicked off? He banned Facebook and TikTok and social media. If you are a country that has the moral high ground, why are you banning free speech? I mean, that's in addition to, reporters and journalists that have been killed or poisoned. Well, I can't think of the guy's name, Russian name, but his face was all screwed up because they gave him poison. I mean, Vladimir Putin is the last person that should be used to address anybody being corrupt. Now, I understand this particular audience has a huge issue with the Biden administration. I'm fine with that, and I totally understand that. So if you want the Biden administration to be held accountable, that makes sense. But you don't sacrifice innocent people and an entire nation to go after President Biden. That's just, you can't be in favor of that just because Biden is the one that they were dealing with. Why is Russia not using their military might? That's coming from Scotty Pooh. What else is there left to use? Nukes? I mean, they're using hypersonic weapons at this point. They are using their military might. What else do you want them to use? They sent over 190,000 soldiers. I mean, tanks. They're using everything. They got, they have jets and everything flying over there. The only thing they have left to use is atomic weapons. They're destroying citizenry. I mean, they're destroying inhabitants and apartment buildings and everything. So when you ask why are they not using their military might, my guess is because all of their conventional weaponry, a lot of it is being defeated by weaponry that they have gotten from the West. The Ukrainians have gotten javelins, and they're about to receive Patriot batters, and it's really showing up the fact that American equipment that is created by the West, is more effective than what they have over there. But they're using their military might. Make no mistake about it. They're taking an estimated loss of 10,000 troops. At this point, they're using their military might. They realize that things are not going according to plan. So the only thing left is to use atomic weapons, and I don't think they're going to do that. We don't need Trump, please. That came from I can't pronounce all of that, but we don't need Trump. So let me ask you this question. Suggesting that we don't need Trump, I understand that. Are you happy with the performance of President Biden? Do you think we need Biden for another 4 years? You can fill in the blank with someone else, but I want you to elaborate on that. Republicans would rather see Putin succeed if it means Biden fails. Megoro 369, I agree with that. To some degree, that's politics, though, because I strongly believe that the liberals would be the same way. There would certainly be some of them. Now, because I watch a lot of media, I can tell you for a fact that a lot of right-wing media commentators are certainly not rooting for Putin. But they did in the beginning. They certainly did in the beginning. Folks, hit the likes. Like I said, helps the analytics of the channel. We want to bring more people, particularly MAGA, to this forum. It doesn't cost you a dime to do it. Hit the like buttons. Click those likes. Get those likes up. I need those likes. We need more MAGA in this room. I need to have more of you around. That's who I prefer talking to. So I'm going to ask that you go ahead and hit those likes. Tap that screen. Tap that screen. You think it will be the new Afghanistan? Fire Dog 747. Shit, it's heading that way. It's fucking heading that way because the Ukrainians, they going straight Mel Gibson Braveheart. They're not giving up. I mean, the idea that Russia was this huge, mighty superpower and would quickly overrun them, that shit ain't happened. I mean, they really fighting back. So shout out to the Ukrainians. No matter how this ends up, they definitely put in some work on the Russians. Even if it ended today, even if Zelensky and his people surrender today, the losses that Russia has suffered are significant. I mean, this war has not even been going on a good month. And Russia has lost thousands of troops, undeniably. Now, the numbers coming from Zelensky are going to be different than the numbers coming from Putin. Obviously, the Ukrainians are going to pump up how many Russians they killed, and the Russians are going to try to temper it down and claim less. But even the modest estimates coming from the Russian side of the fence are in a few thousands. They're even saying at least 1,000 or 2, I believe I heard. So that's a lot in 4 weeks. I mean, we lost 4,000 or some odd troops in Iraq after how many years of combat? For you to lose that many people in a month, I mean, that against a country like the Ukraine, which they were expected to just run right over them, that makes it clear that they clearly underestimated that country. Definitely underestimated that country. And that's in addition to the sheer amount of support that Zelensky is now receiving from the West. I mean, he's definitely coming across as a fan favorite. There's not a lot of countries around the world that are openly rooting for Putin. That's not to say that China or Turkey or somebody or Iran may not be rooting for him behind the scenes, but ain't nobody on the world stage saying they want Putin to win. Except for Belarus, obviously, because they're involved in it. Looking here real quick, we lost none under Trump, and that came from Mama C to 1895. I've said it before on the program. 7 p.m. Central Time, we hear every night, 7 p.m. Central Time. I've said it before that under Trump, Putin did not invade any country. I'm willing to admit that. He invaded Georgia. in 2008 under President George W. Bush. He invaded Crimea in 2014 under Obama. He didn't invade anyone during the 4 years of Trump. Now, I have a take on why I believe that did not happen, and I don't believe he would have invaded the Ukraine under Trump. But at the end of the day, it has to be noted he did not invade anyone under Trump. After 9/11, Democrats backed Bush. Putin is threatening to use nukes against the U.S. and GOP says F. Biden. Yeah, you're definitely covering some of that. I definitely, here's what I don't get. Ronald Reagan is widely considered by Republicans to be the most popular, or better yet, the best president we've had in recent time. Ronald Reagan. Most Republicans thought Ronald Reagan was the best president ever. Ronald Reagan absolutely despised Russia. He's considered as the individual or the leader that took down the Soviet Union. So I have to ask, what happened between the time that Reagan was in office to the time that Trump was in office to make Republicans go from hating the Soviet Union to all of a sudden suggesting that the leader of the Soviet Union is a genius and he's brilliant? Other than the fact that him and Trump just kind of knew each other as business partners. To me, it appears as if Trump came in and said Putin is a smart guy and the Republican Party, particularly MAGA and Trump supporters, just bought into it. If he says the guy's good, he's good. But what has he actually done to make an American start favoring that guy? Now, that obviously is not a question I'd ask Trump because, like I said, Trump, before getting elected in 2016, Trump was on course to build the tallest skyscraper in Russia. He was about to do that. So clearly, him and Putin has some kind of backdoor behind the scenes relationship. I'm not suggesting that, any of that Russian collusion, delusion. I'm not going by any of that. I'm just simply saying that Trump and Putin clearly had a business relationship before getting elected. Certainly a stronger relationship than Biden or Obama or George W. Bush or Hillary Clinton or any of them. He had a better relationship with Trump than any of those guys. And as a result, I think that Trump would have been able to easily talk to him and prevent him from going into the Ukraine. And that's why I believe that it did not happen under his watch. See, he was my alarm for the people. That came from Trini Wallace. Except, what do you mean when you say the alarm? I'll elaborate on that. Carolyn, Trump knew how to keep his friends flies and keep his enemies closer. That can be a smart thing to do at times. Carolyn 17, I can see that. Look, I have never heard Putin support it. That came from Gator. Well, if you're calling the guy smart and a genius, you had Tucker Carlson on his show saying, "Why should I hate Putin? Putin has never called me a racist. Putin has never tried to cancel me." You can YouTube or Google those videos and see Tucker Carlson. In fact, they actually have been using Tucker Carlson's show with him saying things that are favorable to Putin as propaganda in Russia. And they're not even editing it. They're just letting him talk and translating it to Russian. So, there are definitely Republicans. Hell, I get Republicans in this little forum here, in my little corner of social media, that speak favorably of Putin. So, there are certainly right-wingers that are doing it. Fortunately, not most of them are not doing it, but there's definitely right-wingers speaking favorably of Putin. You don't have to look hard to find them either. Just go into any Republican forum because the Ukrainians were helping, looks like they were helping Hunter Biden get involved in corruption. So obviously that's going to instantly make any Trump supporter hate the Ukrainians because they were helping out Joe Biden. But that doesn't mean you need to support what Putin is doing. You can actually walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. You can point out the corruption of the Ukrainians without defending what Biden is doing to a whole bunch of innocent people and innocent women and children. You shouldn't be able to, you shouldn't have to link those two together. Biden is weak enough to make somebody attack us. And that came from, looks like Leon Archer. I disagree with the wording of that. I'll say this. I do believe that Trump was better at projecting strength worldwide. And I see the YouTube audience here, but Trump was definitely better at projecting strength worldwide than President Biden. So I could see where a leader of another country that's looking to encroach on somebody may use that opportunity while Biden is in office. However, Biden does not make you become a monster. What Putin is doing is you got to put that blame on Putin. Biden is not making him use hypersonic weapons to slam into apartment buildings. That means he was just a monster looking for an opportunity to act. Looking here real quick. My Russians see an independent Ukraine as a dagger pointed at their belly. And that came from Manuel. I believe that. I certainly believe that. That an independent Ukraine would probably be really shifting towards the West. Certainly after what has happened now, the Russian-Ukrainian relationship is going to be fucked up, for lack of a better word, for the rest of our lifetime. For the rest of our lifetime, what Putin has done to Ukraine, it'll be 30, 40 years. I mean, think about what Bin Laden done to America. How long is it going to take us to get past that? I mean, just think about it. It's already been 20 years, and we're still saying never forget. Every September 11, we're saying never forget. And what Bin Laden did to us pales in comparison to what Putin is doing to the Ukraine. I mean, Bin Laden took down 2 huge buildings, killing 3,000 some odd Americans. What Putin is doing is probably multiples of that on a daily basis for a month straight. That relationship is not going to be repaired anytime soon. Even if they perform a coup and get rid of Putin, the Russians and the Ukrainians are not going to be leaning towards being allies or anything like that anytime soon. That is a disaster he has created over there. Looks like FireDog747 probably like Dems against Trump and hate everything Biden says. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. What it says, you're all crazy, or you're all too crazy. You said ha ha. Okay, what's the funny point? Like I said, elaborate on your comments, folks. I'm not here to make any beliefs that everything I'm saying is going to be what everyone believes in, or vice versa. But I want to hear the shit you got to say. If you got a point to make, I'm not here to be in an echo chamber, which is why I make it clear I prefer speaking to MAGA. I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I could put a bunch of liberals on and we could just talk liberal shit all day. Nothing gets accomplished like that. I want to hear what the other side has to say, and I want to be able to speak to the other side. So if you hear a ha-ha, by all means, state the ha-ha, but also, put in the comments what you're talking about. I hope Trump supporters aren't backing him. Just hope they're suspicious about what's going on. Well, FireDog747, like I said, when you look at what Hunter Biden was doing, not Hunter Biden, when you look at what Tucker Carlson was doing on his show, it's hard to suggest that he was not speaking favorably in regards to Putin. I mean, his actual quote was, "Why should I hate Putin?" I mean, seriously, while this man is doing that stuff, his quote was, "Why should I hate Putin?" That came from Tucker Carlson. That's about as favorable as you can get for the man. I'm just looking at you guys' comments here. Let me see. Why are U.S. biolabs in Russia? I was under the impression they were in the Ukraine. I don't believe that we would have I can't speak on the Ukrainian situation, but certainly when it comes to Russia, there's no U.S. biolabs in Russia. We're not even an ally of Russia. Why the hell would you have a biolab there? Trump have us on a payday loan. KB, that's harsh. Oh man, that's harsh. Elaborate on that. You're talking about the stimulus payments. Wow, that's pretty damn harsh. I never heard one Republican support Putin. Gator, looks like that says never something. If you haven't heard of any Republican supporting Putin, that's only because you haven't been listening. That is only because you haven't been listening, you haven't been reading, you haven't been following through. There's a lot of Republicans that have spoken favorably of Putin. In fact, they were doing it on Fox News until it became incredibly unpopular, and then they switched their tune. But yeah, I would say Tucker Carlson in particular, you gotta, it shouldn't take but a quick Google search to find several different clips of him. And the reason I say that is because Russian TV is using him as a propaganda tool. It shouldn't take much to find that. The biolabs is a perfect example. Just follow the biolabs. Follow the biolabs in Ukraine. Most of the people speaking out against the biolabs in Ukraine are all look up. Just follow the biolabs. That's a perfect way to go for that. And then in addition to that, obviously the corruption from Hunter Biden, the corruption from the Bidens, and it's not just Hunter. It looks like his dad, the president, may be involved in it. I don't know for certain. I don't want to say some shit that's gonna get me banned, but my guess is that Hunter Biden is not in that alone. But at the same time, yeah, there's plenty of people speaking out to Russians. You just got to look that up. Speaking out in favor. Plenty of right wingers that are speaking out in favor of the Russians. It doesn't take a lot to look that up. Labs in Ukraine were in contact with Wuhan. Mama City 1895. Now that's a stretch. I have not heard that. I have not even heard that from Trump. I've heard him talk about the Wuhan labs and in COVID and all that, and the name. In fact, I'm under the impression that China is more closely allied with the Russians. So yeah, that one right there, I don't know. Germany really need that pipeline, Manuel. Yes, they do, and that's probably what's hurting the idea of sanctioning Russia. Is that there are too many Western European countries that still are dependent on Russia for oil or Russia for fuel. Until they can get some kind of alternative source other than Russia, Russia's going to keep making money off sending that oil out. You're all too crazy. They were funded by USA. Are you suggesting that the labs were funded by USA? America needs pipelines. Mama City 1895. Well, that is a huge outcry in America that Biden needs to open up the pipeline and make us more energy independent. I'm not disagreeing with that. Even with my name, I'm certainly in favor of Biden doing that because under his administration, fuel prices have become astronomical. Now, I understand the liberal mantras that you got to blame the pandemic, you got to blame Putin, you got to blame him, in my case, I tend to blame who's ever in power. And right now, Biden is in the White House, and fuel costs in the United States are skyrocketing. I don't entertain putting the blame on somebody else. When you're president, the buck stops with you. And that was a problem I had oftentimes with Trump, is that anything going well, he took credit for. Anything going bad, it was always somebody else's fault. Like crime in Chicago, for instance. Under President Trump, crime in Chicago was the fault of liberal policy, liberal mayors, liberal governors. The minute Biden gets elected, suddenly it's Biden's fault. Okay, so if the president is at fault when it's a liberal president, then the president is at fault when it's a Republican president. That's just the way I view it. I understand some of you guys do not view it the same way, but that's take charge. You're responsible whether you win or lose. U.S. needs wheat from Russia. Now we can pay more for it. I mean, that's what's happening with all of this stuff, is that we're going to. This is what Biden tried to illustrate, is that we're going to have to take a pitch to impose these sanctions on Russia. There's no way around that. I mean, you can't sanction them and continue paying what you're used to paying for goods and services that we get from them. Just like if we had to impose sanctions on China. Everything we get over 4777. What do you mean we say we are lowering that in a lot of countries, okay? Biden is a failure. It's easy to ignore him. I can't read that. That's Gator again. Gator never. Okay, regardless if Biden is a failure or not, he's still the president of the United States. So it's not easy. It's never easy to ignore somebody who has all sorts of executive powers over the country. So I'm not so far as, listen, I'm willing to admit right now, in the first 14 months or so of his presidency, well, 15, 16 months, it's been a failed president. It has not been a successful presidency. I'm willing to admit that part. But he's not easy to ignore. I think that's insane. The guy still has 3+ years left in office, or 2+ years left in office. Let me get my math right. He still has 2 years and some time in office. He's not easy to ignore. He still has a lot of power. So let's not go crazy with it. Do you ever? Sometimes I'm the nerdy type. I drive around with C-SPAN on and listen and watch the Yays. You're talking more on at this point, what difference does it make type Hillary Clinton type thing? Sometimes, same thing, I'll watch them sometimes. Some of that shit can go on the whole day, but I will watch. And then, of course, I'll listen to the excerpts on some of your talk shows, The Outnumbers, the Five on Fox, those type of shows, even The View for all of you guys out there. I'm sure you don't like the View, but they will cover the more controversial or the more outspoken portions of it. But to sit there and watch a whole Senate hearing, no, I don't. I don't generally watch the whole thing. Don't have time, by the way. Try Crime in Memphis. Mama see the 1895. Yeah, exactly. Crime in Memphis. I mean, I suppose Memphis has a liberal mayor, but the state is certainly a Republican state. You don't hear him blaming the governor of Tennessee for crime in Memphis. No, it's like one of those deals where find the highest liberal you can blame and stop there. That's how it looks. I mean, fine, okay, when Biden is in office, you go all the way up to the liberal president being responsible for crime in Chicago or crime in, in New York or Los Angeles. But when you get a Republican president and a Republican governor, then you limit it all the way down to the mayor. To me, that's passing blame. Biden should be living out his golden years with his caretaker, Joe Biden. That came from America First 35. In all honesty, so should Trump. I'm not saying that Trump is not within his faculties, but the guy will be 78 years old in 2024 when it's his time to run, and everybody believes he's going to run again. At 78, he should also be riding off into the sunset, in my opinion. When you look at the amount of damage Trump sustained, whether people were calling him a homophobe or a racist or whatever, that guy was widely respected before running. When he ran for office, he could have run off into the sunset, highly respected. The Trump brand, the Trump name would have been all over the world on buildings and everything, and his children would have continued living the life of that highly respected name. All of that's ruined now. The Trump name is permanently tarnished, whether he becomes president again or not. That name is, but I do understand what you're saying about riding off into the sunset. I'm looking at your comments here. No, that was a reply in a different subject. Okay, fair enough. Few are lower here than a lot of countries. Appreciate that. I love that. Appreciate it. Like I say, hit those likes too, folks. I've been off for a week, so my viewership is down. Normally it's a few hundred in here, but I normally do lunchtime chats and hype it up for the night and all of that. So they got crazy on me because I talked about the 2020 election and I talked about the voting, and you know how it is when you bring that up, and boom, TikTok claimed that I said something I shouldn't have said. I don't know what the hell it was, but yeah, normally we have more in here, so hit them likes. It does bring MAGA to the channel, and like I said, as time goes on, we'll get back to where we were, but being off for a week was not favorable to the conversation. But you guys are a lively bunch that's in here tonight. Trump's name isn't bad. America's name is. Mamacita, no, that's not true. 1895. Certainly, let me tell you this right now. Regardless of what you think, and I see those likes coming in, I appreciate that. Keep hitting them likes, it helps. But regardless of how weak you may think Biden is in projecting international strength, what Putin is doing, Putin has been the best boom for Biden that he could have, because Biden's numbers are ridiculous. They're in the tank. And now that Putin has done this is something I've been saying on the channel all the time, is that no matter what's going on domestically, if it looks like the country is threatened, we all come together as a family. And that is what is happening to some degree worldwide, is that you may think that America's name is bad, but right now there's a lot of countries that want to join NATO, and they know they got to go through the United States, and they want some of them good old-fashioned United States weapons, because our shit works. You see what's happening in Russia? Everybody thought Russia was a big and bad asshole that nobody could stop. That's our shit that's destroying those tanks, that's shooting down aircraft and things like that. America's name ain't bad. Let me just tell you, Biden might not be the best representative of America, but the American name is not bad by any means. We will survive Biden no matter what he does. But interesting comment. I just want to say that. Stop cheating elections, Kevin Roberts 208. I say it all the time on the channel. I'm willing to entertain anything you have to say, whether it's Obama being born in Kenya, or the election being taken as you. Just show proof. I need to see proof. And right now, I stand by my original statement that the Trump administration has not shown enough proof to suggest that the election was stolen from Trump. And keep in mind, Trump didn't say that the Democrats cheated. He said he won by a landslide. He has not presented any evidence for that. And not only did he say he won by a landslide, he said on election night while the votes were still being counted. There's videos of him on YouTube saying I won by a landslide while the ticker is still showing states like Pennsylvania has counted 40-50% of their vote. Why is he on TV saying that? Like about President Biden, particularly from his detractors. I will say this though. I watched the State of the Union address a couple weeks ago, and I also watched Biden debate President Trump twice. Not once did I hear Trump suggest he was reading from a teleprompter. Remember, won't you shut up, man, when he said that and they started putting it on t-shirts? So Biden can speak. He may not be as sharp as he was in his 50s or any of that. I'm fine with that. My guess is Trump is not as sharp as he was in his 50s. Chances are, if any of us live to be in our late 70s or early 80s, we're not going to be more than just where I saw him out there and he was just not there, and you're just not hearing it. The people who are suggesting that Biden has dementia are people who don't like Biden. America has been cheating elections worldwide for 60 years. They do it here too. I believe that the Clintons were involved in trying to sway the Russian election away from Putin. I believe that, which is why a lot of people believe that Putin returned the favor when it came to her election. That's the belief. I'm not saying yes or no, but that is the belief. We are in an economic reboot. All powerful nations are seeking positions. And not quite yet, Manuel. I don't know if I would say that, because Russia ain't seeking shit right now. Russia is doing really bad. So if nations are seeking reboot, Russia ain't one of them. I voted for Obama, Biden twice, and Trump twice. So I'm assuming, Mama CD, you did not like Hillary, and you liked Obama and Biden. You like Biden as a VP, but you certainly didn't support him as being a president. Okay, that's fair enough. Like I say all the time, even with a name like you see I got there as a name like a handsome liberal, on paper, and I appreciate the likes. You guys are hitting those likes. You're getting the likes up. I do appreciate a few more have came to the room. Not many, but a few more have. But I will say this. Even though my name clearly makes no qualms about who I am and which way I lean, Trump deserved a second term. On paper, what he did for the country, the economy, obviously the fuel prices were a hell of a lot better than they are now. The unemployment numbers were like 4%. He deserved a second term. Unfortunately, he would not shut up on Twitter. And I know a lot of you guys out here think that as long as he's doing the right thing for the country, he should be able to insult and say whatever the hell he wants to anybody he wants. Doesn't work that way. You can call it in your feelings. You can call it voting by emotion. Maybe you're right. I'm just saying it's predictable that if you talk shit to too many people, it's going to have an adverse effect. And the belief from a lot of right-wingers is that he should just been able to do this stuff, and nobody out of a country of 330 million people, nobody should have let that affect him. And that's just a pipe dream. He should have got off Twitter. There's no better way. I have a video on YouTube, by the way, talking about this. I'm just bringing it up because it made me think of this. And that video is titled, "Trump has never said anything racist." Or has he, in parentheses. Trump has never said anything racist. Handsome Liberal on YouTube, I highly encourage you to watch that. I'd love to hear from anybody who does watch it and tell me what do you think. Think I'm full of shit? Let me know. Russia can achieve a huge economy, huge oil reserves, a world breadbasket. Putin will take one. They can't achieve shit if nobody will work with them. I mean, they're going to have to be able to do more than just export oil. They can't even fly over anybody's airspace right now. Their stock market has been closed for 2 weeks because they don't want to open it up and let people see how disastrous shit has gotten. No, selling fossil fuels keeps them afloat to some degree. But all of these other bans and sanctions that are that's hurting. It is definitely hurting them. Hell, even the 3% that the United States is no longer important for them has to hurt a little bit. But they do more than just export oil. I mean, just the quality of life in general. They can't even get on the internet and shit. I mean, they've become an isolated country, similar to North Korea. That can't be cool. I mean, they had a certain amount of freedom that just has been all wiped out. So no, I don't think that they're going to achieve a huge economy anytime soon. In fact, my guess is unless they get rid of Putin, they're not going to live this down. They're not going to be able to live it down. I cannot imagine the rest of the world being like, okay, cool, it's over with now. Let's go back to Putin. I think that Putin is going to kind of be a pariah for the remainder of this, whether he's involved in Ukraine or not. Nobody's going to trust dealing with Putin. So he's either going to have to resign, he may face a coup, or he can live like Kim Jong Un, which probably would be more likely what happens. He just lives in a country that's isolated. He dominates his people, and they just start becoming poor as hell. That's probably what's going to happen. The same thing has happened in Iran. The same when we, as the West, led by the United States, when we impose these real strict sanctions on these countries, the outcome is third world status. Cuba, fucking Venezuela. I mean, that's what happens. Your country is essentially destroyed. Now, if you're Hugo Chavez in Cuba or in Venezuela, the late Hugo Chavez, or if you're the Castro brothers in Cuba, yeah, you're filthy rich. It doesn't matter the sanctions. You can survive them. It's your people that live like shit. And how long has the Cuban people been living like shit? How long has the Venezuelan people been living like shit? I mean, they don't get out of that. They don't survive that. They stay that way. Venezuela voted its way to third world. Yeah, okay. That came from I'm a smart ass. Well, once they put in the late Hugo Chavez, I think that was his name. Once they put him in there, and George W. Bush didn't like him, and we started imposing sanctions. Yeah, they voted their way. They voted their way to it, but it is what it is. That's what happens. Kind of like America's facing now. Mama see the 1895. Are you suggesting that America's facing third world status? I don't buy that. Manuel, I believe Putin will have future negotiating leverage, not tomorrow, but years from now. I don't. I can't. I'd have to see. I don't believe. I don't believe he will get back the status that he had. I think that there are permanent. That I think their relationships are permanently damaged because of him. Because of what he just did in this last month. I think that they're going to be. I mean, you're talking about tens of. There may be 100,000 people that lost their lives because of this. I don't know what the numbers are in Ukraine in terms of the death toll, but we're talking like 3 million plus refugees. I mean, I can't imagine folks being willing to work with him again anytime soon. I mean, the numbers are staggering. Like I said, we suffered what bin Laden did here in the United States 21 years ago, and we're still talking like never forget that shit. And that was nothing. That was absolutely nothing compared to what Putin is. I mean, he's destroying whole cities at a time. That Mary Uso or Mary Super, whatever the name of that town is, that's just the size of New Orleans. And he's destroying the whole town. And that's just one of the cities he's destroyed in that country. I mean, no, I can't see him bouncing back from this anytime soon. NATO would tear through the Russian military. Good thing Trump didn't get the chance to dissolve NATO. That came from Migoro thinks now. You driving some facts. At least from my standpoint, I understand this audience. This audience is definitely a fan of America leaving NATO. Fortunately, what was his name? I can't even think of the guy's name with the glasses and the mustache. He was part of the Trump administration. John Bolton. John Bolton, I believe. Yeah, I think it was John Bolton. I might say Michael Bolton. Yeah, John Bolton. He was one of the main folks that convinced Trump not to take us out of NATO. And I 100%, he had a book out too, by the way. I 100% agree with that. Listen, the NATO states were not paying their way. Certainly were not forking over enough cash for the military protection they were getting. I'm in the camp on that. However, I do not believe disbanding NATO would have been a benefit to any Western nation. Okay, yeah, we're saving some money, but what about the phrase of there's strength in numbers? Ever heard of that phrase, there's strength in numbers? Why would you break up NATO? And let's be clear, whether Trump was trying to help Putin out or not, Putin benefits tremendously if NATO becomes weaker or disbanded. Because that's the only reason probably why he ain't encroaching on more countries like Poland and some of them, is that he knows he got to deal with a whole bunch of motherfuckers if he fuck with one of them. if you all of a sudden take the United States out of NATO, whether you think Trump was sanctioning Russia or friends with Russia or hated Russia, whatever you think, that benefits Russia. There's no doubt that Putin would benefit by America jumping out of NATO. So when you say, Maguro, that it's a good thing Trump didn't get the chance to dissolve NATO, I agree with that 100%. Because you now have countries like Moldova, who expects to be next if he conquers the Ukraine, that they're begging to be members of NATO now. I think Finland and some of those Fjord countries up there are asking to be members of, because they know that they're watching what's going on, and the West has made it clear we will defend NATO countries, but fuck everybody else. So everybody else is like, holy shit, we better get in this, because if we don't, this dude may come get us. So yeah, that was a bad idea. Increase supply so prices go down. And that coming from looks like Gator energy independence in the United States. I stand by that. That's certainly a right wing point that they believe we should be energy independent. The left wing believes we should be pursuing alternative energies. I'm with both, but right now, while we're dealing with a disaster, open the pipeline, go back to drilling. I just, that's the way I feel. I know I'm not in sync with a lot of liberals, but right now shit's going awry. NATO, the countries that came to help the United States after 9/11, that came from KB. I don't think we needed NATO for what happened with 9/11. I mean, seriously. I mean, you're talking. Let's be honest about what history has told us about what happened on 9/11. It was 20 dudes. It was 20 dudes with the money or the finance backing of Bin Laden. That hasn't went much further. I mean, I know we attacked Iraq and we attacked Afghanistan, and Bin Laden was actually found in Pakistan. But when you look at 20 years later, how many people were involved? How big was the involvement of what happened on 9/11? You don't need NATO to handle that shit. It wasn't that big. It wasn't sanctioned by Afghanistan. It wasn't sanctioned by Iraq. We were told it was, but at the end of the day, it's pretty clear that Saddam Hussein did not have much to do with what happened on 9/11, and neither did the country of Afghanistan. So, wow, what else? What really could NATO have done in regards to that? NATO military is 70% American military. Yeah, it is. But we need those bases. We need that airspace. There's a lot of additional support that we get by being in NATO, because one of the primary issues, if you have to go to war, is transport. And because we are members of NATO, we have bases all over the damn place, so that if something breaks out, we can instantly send troops to whatever base we have near, turn it into a forward operating base, and expand it. Without NATO, we would lose all of that. That's the problem that Russia is having. They don't have transport. They have transport issues. They don't have all of that. That's the same reason that even though China has a much bigger population and military than the United States, they would have a hard time occupying the United States or attacking the United States. They don't have bases anywhere near. They would have to do all of that shit by Navy, which they don't have much of a Navy or aircraft. They don't have transport capabilities. If you look at America and the bases we have surrounding China, Russia, Iran, we got bases in all of their fucking backyards. If we ever had to go into a serious conflict with any of those countries, fact is, we're already there. We are already there. We are within a couple hundred miles, probably 1,000 miles or less of all of those countries. Every country that we have an issue with, we already got multiple bases within at least probably well under 1,000 miles of that country. None of our enemies have bases that close to us. And that you would lose if you dropped out of NATO. He does not know that. That came from Zoni Simon. He said he does not know that. I would like to know you would elaborate on that. I'm a smart ass. U.S. leaving NATO is bad on a world level. NATO countries need to start paying their keep, though. I agree with that. I can concur with that. And that's the way Trump should have orated it. The way Trump was making it sound would have had Putin, in my opinion, licking his chops. Like, shit, this is the best we've heard in a long time. Certainly when you compare Trump to, say, Ronald Reagan, like, they hated us. All of a sudden, this dude like I said, I'm not saying that Trump was in the camp with Putin by any means. I'm just simply saying that if he's talking about getting us out of NATO, in fact, when you really look at the way Trump was handling things, he was getting into spats, for lack of a better term, getting into spats with a host of our allies, from the mayor of London, the Angela Merkel of Germany, fucking the president of Mexico, the ex-president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, Trudeau of Canada. He was actually getting spats with our enemies and suggesting that the intelligence coming from the Russians was correct. Like him or love him, what he was doing on an international stage seems backwards. It seems backwards. Certainly, if I'm Putin, I'm loving this guy. I'm loving this guy. He's fighting with his allies and he's leaning towards us. And that's not suggesting that Trump was in the camp with the Russians. I'm just simply saying that you would have to understand that that was beneficial to Vladimir Putin. Okay, folks, I'm gonna wrap this up in a minute. Just glad to be back on talking to you folks, chewing the rag, which has been a week. Like I said, they got rid of us for the lamest of reasons. You know these platforms. By the way, I would encourage you guys to go on YouTube, The Handsome Liberal, same page on YouTube. I'm actually on YouTube doing the simulcast right now, so if you go to YouTube, you'll see the same picture. It's actually in wider format, and everything's facing the correct way, so you'll actually see this as it's meant to be seen. And I'm doing it because I prefer to be on the YouTube platform, but at the same time, I don't want to be banned from TikTok again for the lamest of bullshit. And that just happened. In fact, it's happened twice already. You start saying anything that's favorable of Trump or Republicans, and suddenly you're getting banned on social media. It's bullshit. I used to be belief of that, but now that I'm starting to see a little bit in other directions, you know what I'm saying? I'm starting to see some of that has validity to it. Trump didn't flex on no country. T-Mac 4777. No, he didn't. I won't say he flexed on any country, but he certainly was getting into unnecessary fights and arguments. So remember, he didn't just want to get us out of NATO. He was talking about getting us out of the UN. He got us out of the Iran agreement, which, okay, we can work on that one. But he also was talking about getting us out of NAFTA. You're breaking up all of these alliances all over the place. It wasn't a case of America first. It was beginning to become America alone. And I just don't, I can't submit that, I can't buy into that. I'm not in the camp that we're better off doing everything on our own. And he was, you name the agreement, the Paris Accord, you name the agreement, Trump was breaking us up and getting us out of it. According to Trump, every agreement and every treaty that America got into in U.S. history was bad. He was just breaking them all up. I don't see where there was a benefit to doing that. Not over and over and over again. Biden had intel 6 months ago Russia was lining troops up near Ukrainian border, did nothing. What could he do? I mean, what really could he do other than tell us? And you have to understand when it comes to confidentiality, maybe it wasn't in the best interest, or they thought it wasn't in the best interest of the United States at the time to let the Russians know we're watching you through, we're performing surveillance on you. Maybe we didn't want them to know we were looking at them until we were absolutely certain that, okay, yeah, they're on some bullshit. Maybe they're just out here trying to, do some, what do they call it, war games, show us strength. A lot of countries do that. Or maybe they're about to test out some new technology and they don't know we're watching it, so we can do intel on it. But then after a while, it starts building up to a ridiculous number, and he did start coming out and making it clear that they up to something. Now, keep in mind, when the Biden administration first started letting the world know that the Russians were leaning towards, looking like they were about to invade the Ukraine, even the Ukrainians did not believe the Biden administration. Even the Ukrainians were saying that America is hyping things up and starting a conflict that's not about to happen. That's what was coming from the Ukrainians. And the Biden administration kept saying they about to fuck with you guys. They kept saying it over and over and over again. And then finally, maybe a week before the attack or a few days before the attack, Biden got on TV and said, I'm convinced that Putin is going to attack this country, because now we can see that not only are they sending military supplies, they're sending shit like blood and medics and stuff that you use when people are getting shot. This is no longer a case of just, projecting strength or some kind of military exercise. They're sending up medics and doctors and shit. So they expect some blood to be shed. And finally, the Ukrainians were like, holy shit. And they started begging for, well, let's talk about it. Let's come to, let's have some kind of talk. It was too late. But the Biden administration definitely did try to ring the bell. Do you really think there aren't U.S. troops in the Ukraine? 300 for instructional support. Carolyn 17, that is a great question. No, I don't. No, I do not believe that. Let me answer that the right way. You said, do you really think there aren't? No, I don't think that. I believe there are. It would not surprise me at all if it got out that special forces were on the ground in the Ukraine, whether helping shoot down aircraft, training people to shoot down aircraft, sneaking weapons into the middle. Yeah, I definitely believe that there are some American boots on the ground there. I mean, when you look at the damage that the Ukrainians are doing to the Russians, yeah, they getting some inside help. I mean, it's coming from us. I strongly believe it is. So we won't know that. I mean, let's just be real. At our level, we won't know that. We're talking heads on social media. We'll never know that. But I'm with you on that. I absolutely believe that Special Forces, Delta Forces, Navy SEALs, somebody is on the ground in that country, clearing a path for equipment to come in there, helping shoot down shit. Yeah, I believe that. Certainly believe that. Here, Ukrainians are the best fighter pilots. They gotta have planes first, though. They don't have a lot of aircraft. They gotta have planes. I mean, have the Ukrainians been training on those MiGs that Poland want to send? They certainly don't know nothing about the F-22s and F-35s that we got. So I don't know. You haven't heard that one volunteer that said that he was being held at gunpoint and told he can't. That came from, what did you say? Elaborate on that, Robert. He didn't get anything good done with other countries. T-Mac 4777. You're saying Trump didn't get anything good done with other countries? Now, it looks like Gator, okay. KB, you're saying other countries have lost respect for the U.S. now because of Trump. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I will say that there are certain countries that certainly did not have respect for Trump. Canada, Germany, Mexico. I believe that. However, it's obviously known around the world that no matter who is in charge in the United States, they only have a max of 8 years. So we may get a cowboy or we may get an asshole in office, but they're only going to be around for 8 years. I don't think that the respect, whatever way you view the American people, I don't think that's going to be lost on who we get in office for that short period of time. Because we're not putting in dictators, whereas in some of these other countries we have an issue with, they're putting in dictators. So this person may be around for the rest of your fucking life, like the Castros. That they're never going to be gone. I mean, they've been around since the 50s or 60s. That's not going to happen in the United States. No matter how much you hate the guy, he's going to be gone 8 years max. So I don't think that we lost respect worldwide. I think that there may be some people who didn't like who we put in office, but I don't think we lost respect. But I appreciate that comment, by the way. The volunteer was told he's not allowed to leave the country. It's a video on TikTok. What was he volunteering for? I'm not aware of that. Volunteering for what? And they do have some of our people in Russia too, like that WNBA basketball player. There's some Americans in Russia that can't leave. I mean, at this point, you can't even get a flight out. So there's some people that are stuck in Russia too. Paper planes, I don't get that one. My son is an officer on an amphibious assault ship. Hopefully he ain't. He ain't in that region. Oh my God! Hopefully he's not in that region. Looking real quick here. As much as I support Trump and his successes, I am tired of the hate. I'd rather see someone else. Don 64, that's becoming a pretty common theme. Still overwhelmingly the Republicans support Trump. That's who they want. They had CPAC a few weeks ago, and Trump came in first as the person that they wanted. I think DeSantis from Florida came in second, and Trump beat him by 20 points. And I don't even know who the hell was third. But right now, overwhelmingly, the Republicans still want Trump. However, the number of people who are speaking like you are growing. because there is a lot of dissension or division coming in the Republican Party from Trump and his antics. The Jim Barr, the book I'm talking about, Attorney Barr, Chris Christie's, the fucking Mitt Romney's. He has a lot of enemies within the party. I think that in 2024, the way Biden is performing, I think the liberals would be easy to defeat if they didn't put Trump on the ticket. If DeSantis or Governor Kemp of Georgia, somebody went against him, or hell, even Marco Rubio types, I think they would give the Democrats a hell of a go. But if you send Trump up there, you're going to have a whole lot of Republicans dividing the vote. I mean, hell, even Liz Cheney is threatening to go independent. Obviously, she wouldn't be successful at it, but she could divide the vote. There are a lot of what they call never Trumpers. There's a lot of Republicans that don't like the guy because he's done so much. So I think that if the Democrats have any sort of chance in 2024, assuming shit continues to go as bad as it's going right now, their best chance is if Trump is sent back up there. That's the best chance, is because, like what you just said, Don, a lot of people don't want the chaos. They don't want to deal with all of the name calling and the hate and the division that Trump promotes. We would love to have gas prices the way they are, the way they were. We would certainly love to have the economy and things like that back the way they were. But he's making it clear that if he gets elected, I'm also going to bring back the name calling and all of that shit too, because he's still doing it. I mean, he's heckling the shit out of Biden right now. Trump is not president, but he just had a rally in South Carolina last weekend. He's constantly heckling, was it last weekend or the weekend before last? Whatever. But he's constantly still, the name calling, still heckling them, all of that. So he's making it clear that if you reelect me, the reasons that you had a problem with, that stuff's coming back too. And KB, you say, yes, everyone is tired of the division. That's from both sides. Yeah, but it's different when it's coming from the White House. It's a whole lot different when it's coming from the White House. There's always going to be Maxine Waters types. There's always going to be the Sean Hannity. I mean, you're going to get political division. That's what happens. But it shouldn't be coming out of the White House. And when Trump was in power, it's coming out of the White House. I mean, he's holding rallies, going around calling people nicknames, and that shouldn't be coming from the White House. It's inappropriate to be coming from that level. There are a lot of, if you're the president, you have a lot of goons. Let Tucker Carlson, Lori Ingrams, and Sean Hannity, let them handle that shit. That's you let your goons handle that. Trump likes to deal with that mess himself. And it just shouldn't be coming from the White House. I understand this audience has a different opinion on that, but that's just the way I feel. Appreciate those likes, KB. Definitely appreciate that. Like I said, folks, those likes help out the channel. I'm going to wrap it up in a minute. Certainly 7 p.m. Central is when I'm out here. That week that they put a ban on for me talking about the election, it's definitely fucking hurt my audience, because normally it's easily 100 to 300 of you guys on here at a time, and being off for a week certainly hurt that. I generally do a lunchtime chat around when I'm on my lunch break. I usually get on here and chat, and it could be 400 or 500 of you motherfuckers on here then. And I normally try to let them know, be on here at 7. And the audience at 7 is not as heavy as the audience at lunch, because it's prime time. 7 p.m. is a prime time hour. So I can understand it, but it's always bigger than it is now. But I do appreciate the fact that you guys, the folks who were here, the participation was off the chain. Don 1964, but would it stop if it wasn't Trump, another Republican? Yeah, it would stop. Yeah, it would stop. Because, good example, under President George W. Bush, Kanye West, of all people, got up there and said George W. Bush does not like black people. He was criticizing George W. Bush's response to Hurricane Katrina. George Bush didn't attack him back. Now, some of his goons got on Kanye West, and that's how it's supposed to work. George Bush didn't, and George Bush wrote in his book after he left office, he had a book called Decision Points. He talked about it. He said, I was really hurt by him saying that. Trump would have got out there and attacked Kanye West. He probably would have brought up, you can't even keep your fucking wife or something like that. He would have attacked Kanye West. That's what I'm talking about. It's that kind of shit. When you get out there and you get into dirty work, you get in the mud with him. If you want to talk about him not being able to keep Kim Kardashian or some bullshit, let Sean Hannity or Lori Ingram or Rush Limbaugh, if he was around, so let those people do that. You don't do that because then you got a back and forth with the president of the United States, and Trump was constantly doing that. Trump was never accused of being racist until he got in office. Robert Emery, real quick, let me respond to that question in two ways. Real quick, I definitely would highly suggest you going to my YouTube channel and looking up, just type it in as a search. Trump never said anything racist. The handsome liberal. I made a video specifically on that. But let me say this. In regards to Trump never being accused of a racist until he got in office, that is, for the most part, true. I mean, I'm sure in some smaller circles it was happening, but for the most part, you're truthful about that. But at the same time, I always say Barack Obama was never accused of being born in Kenya until he got in office. Hillary Clinton was never accused of assaulting children until she ran for office. Mitt Romney in the binders of women, he's a Mormon. When you run for office, it dirties you up. It dirties you up. Whether it's true or not, when you run for office, people start throwing. I mean, how long has President Biden been around? All of a sudden he runs for office and he got dementia? He can't string together two sentences? Never heard that when he was vice president. When he was vice president, he just says a gaffe or two. He became president, now it's full-blown dementia and the man's about to be dead soon. When you run for office, it dirties you up. Trump is not an exception to that. Whoa. Trump was sued and lost the lawsuit in the 70s. KB, yes, he was, for discriminating in regards to housing. The excuse was that he didn't do it, and his rental agency done it, and things like that. Like I said, I would highly invite you guys to go on YouTube and type in Trump never said anything racist, the handsome liberal, and it'll take you to my video. I would love for you guys to watch that because I did like a few minute video on that, and I think I nailed that one on the head, whether he said anything racist or not. I'll let you guys watch that. Department of Justice lawsuit for discrimination suit against Trump organization. Yeah, that's what KB said. But it's against the organization. So he has I'm not defending Trump at all. I'm just, he has the excuse of saying, look, that was my rental agency, it wasn't me. That's all I'm saying, is he can use that excuse, and it's very difficult to suggest otherwise because you don't have the goods on him. There's so much between him and the actual person renting the apartment. But I do know how it looks, and I could easily take up on the other side of that issue. But I'm just simply saying he has that out of saying it wasn't me, it was the individual. Racism was rampant in the 1970s by just about everyone. Yeah, 64, that's true, including Biden. Shit. I mean, if you really want to look at it, Biden has apologized for his racist past too, so it is what it is. But in my video on YouTube, I don't talk about that. I talk about something far more recent. Trump never said anything racist. And put in the handsome liberal and take you to that video. Trump is the one who said, if you're the boss, it's your fault, when he is talking about Obama. That's a really good point, KB. Trump has said a few things that have not aged well. Another one he said about Hillary Clinton is, when you're pleading the fifth, it means you got something to hide. Now all of a sudden he's pleading the fifth, and it's suddenly, well, they won't treat me fairly, that's why I'm doing it. He said a few things that have not aged well. That's a good point you made. Trump settled the lawsuit, and Trump said settling is an admission of guilt. There's another one. There's another one that has not aged well. Yeah, I guess I'm with you when you write on those. What Trump said about Mexicans wasn't racist. What do you mean? He's sending the rapists and murderers and all of that? It certainly wasn't pro-Mexican, was it? It certainly wasn't pro-Mexican. You know, like I said, I didn't bring that one up in the video either. If you get a chance, I definitely covered a couple of things in there that would be worth a watch. The fifth, exactly, yeah. Robert Emery, they also accused the high gas prices on Trump, but now suddenly it's not Biden's fault. Exactly. Even with my name, I have no problem suggesting that those gas prices, if you're in office, that shit's on your watch. I'm not going to exclude Biden from being responsible for the gas prices. Certainly, when our energy independence in regards to drilling in this country and using our own resources has dropped under Biden. So yeah, he may not be responsible for every penny that gas prices have increased, but he's certainly responsible for a lot of it. So you're not going to hear that from this liberal. Trump just lost his essay case from Alva Johnson on Friday. What case is that? I want to know about that one, KB. What case is that? And I disagree that it's not the president's fault, regardless of party. You're talking about gas prices, because if you stop drilling, it's pretty self-explanatory that that's going to alter the fuel prices. If you go from drilling our oil to importing it from somewhere else, that's obviously going to have an effect on what we're paying at the pump. And under Biden, he did make some alterations to that. So you can be responsible. Those permits they talk about are all for zones that have no oil in them. Well, I've heard that, but at the same time, all of the fracking and other methods of mining our fuels that we have here in this country, Biden has stopped it from several angles. So, I mean, you can bring up one, but it doesn't cover some of the other ones. Birtherism was racist. Then Trump blamed it all on Hillary shaking my hand. Well, Hillary was involved in that, Megoro, though. Hillary also was suggesting that. In fact, I always bring up the books when I've read something, but in Chris Christie's book, he definitely criticizes the hell out of Trump for birtherism, but he makes clear and points out the fact that came from a Hillary campaign first. When Hillary was running against Obama in 2007, before Obama got elected in 2008, and they were throwing that stuff around too. So it came from the Hillary campaign first, and Trump ran with it like wildfire. They also, for a very short period of time, in the 2020 campaign, they tried to throw that at Kamala Harris too. They started saying that she wasn't born in the country, and I believe some cooler heads prevailed amongst conservatives, and they were like, don't go down this road again. This is fucking ridiculous. But they were about to do it on Kamala Harris as well. Schumer criticized Trump when the prices were going up, said it was his fault. Fair is fair. I'm with you, Don. I'm with you. I 100% agree. Fair is fair on that. Canada's first, this is Canada's First Nations people were protesting with blockades. The oil was diverted and is being refined in different plants. I'm not hearing that. I'd have to, that would take a little bit of research. I'm not hearing that. Don Schumer was wrong. Like I said, I'm not hearing that. I'd have to look that up. Listen, folks, I'm going to go ahead and jump out of here. 7 p.m. Central is when we do this. I do appreciate their participation. It certainly will. I said goodbye 10 minutes ago. You know, you actually are the one that's very funny, by the way. You're the one that made me extend it because you said some shit that was worth responding to. But I'm going to end it right now. 7 p.m. Central. We are on here tomorrow. Like I said, I do a little lunchtime break thingy, but I'm going to go ahead and end it. 7 p.m. Central, folks. Go to YouTube. Trump never said anything racist, and just type the handsome liberal because it'll take you to my page. Catch you guys tomorrow.